Okay, so what we're doing here now is a little exercise on blending, and specifically a Bordeaux-style blend. We at Robert Foley call it a Claret blend, Claret being an English word for the wines of Bordeaux. But the main thing here is to sort of exercise a tasting and an understanding of some of the varieties, 3 of the 5 main varieties that go into the wines of Bordeaux, which are Cabernet Sauvignon family wines. So Cabernet everybody knows, Merlot pretty much everybody knows. Those tend to be the chief ingredients in these blends. The lesser percentages that often show up in Bordeaux blends or in Claret blends are Cabernet Franc, Petite Verdot, and Malbec. So for today's exercise, we're going to work with one of those, Petite Verdot, and kind of show how a basic blend of Merlot and Cabernet can be influenced by just the seasoning effect of a little tiny bit of Petite Verdot. Historically, the wines of Bordeaux are blended. The blending is not only prescribed for what's in the bottle, but what's in the vineyard. These are national laws. They're appellation contrôlée. So they have no freedom when they replant to change up the varietal composition. So it is not only a tradition of Bordeaux, but it's the laws of France. We have no such laws here in California. You can blend anything, you can grow anything, you can put it together. When you bottle it, there are federal labeling laws that mandate what you can and cannot call it. So unlike the wines of France, the American wines are normally varietally labeled. So that is to say they are called Cabernet Sauvignon after that grape variety, or Merlot after that grape variety. The restrictions there are that the wines have to be 75% or more. Now you can make a blend. We used to be able to call them Claret, but they have disallowed the use of that. So people who still bottle Claret are grandfathered by the law before it changed. You can call it a Bordeaux-style blend or a California blend. More commonly, people make up proprietary names. They call it, Steve or Phyllis or something like that. Or they join the Meritage Society and call it Meritage, which has been a source of confusion for a lot of people who tend to call it Meritage. But Meritage was a coined word made in the United States, and it was something like marriage and heritage. I'm not really sure I've got that right, but it is a Meritage blend. But in order to do that, there are further restrictions. You have to join a Meritage Society and pay dues and all that sort of thing. So what we did when we started bottling a blend here back in the 90s was we called it Claret because we were legally allowed to do that. So we continued that, and it's pretty exciting to us. We have had several vintages where the wines have actually been 100% varietal one, 100% Cabernet Sauvignon, but we continue to call it Claret. And I think people who have become our customer base have just understood that Robert Foley Claret is going to be that. But for today, we're gonna blend, and we're gonna try something like a 50-50 blend, 50% Merlot, 50% Cabernet, and kind of discuss how those work together, seasoned with Petite Verdot. To start it off, I think we should get to know the puzzle pieces, the organoleptic puzzle pieces, the tasting and smelling ingredients here. So what I'm going to do is start with, we'll start with a little bit of Merlot. You guys are going to share because and so these are really light pours. We're going to pour 1 ounce because eventually the wine in these bottles, we're going to, if there's none left over, then it must have been really successful. Somebody drank their samples. But we're going to make a blend that people get to take home with them at the end. So we're going to, just for this purpose of tasting these, we're going to go very light. You need to keep track of which is which. So I poured you Merlot first, Cabernet second, and then Petite Verdot. And there you go. So since I'm guiding today, I'm going to suggest some descriptors as we go through these wines, smell them and taste them, and importantly, feel them on our palate. We might need the 4th glass. But feel free to come up with your own descriptors. I mean, that's really what this is all about. And so first, we've got Merlot. Nice red plum, red cherry fruit in the nose. And on the palate, nice big, rich middle, soft finish, juicy wine. At some stage, you also remove your lipstick, but okay, we'll go to the Cabernet next. Obviously, during this part, we'll be asking for questions and stuff like that. Cabernet has more of a black cherry cassis, almost a cedary element there, and it has quite a bit more what I would call vapor pressure. I mean, there's a stronger nose, right? And on the palate, it has those flavors of black cherry and mocha and stuff, but it's kind of hollow in the middle. Do you feel that?
Yeah.
In the palate? And then in the end, there's astringency or tannin that gives you a little bit of grip on the finish. And so the third ingredient is Petite Verdot. There's really very little of this grown anywhere in Bordeaux as well as in the Napa Valley, but there's some magic to it. You can see, first of all, it's really dark in color. So when this gets added to a blend, it's certainly not going to lighten the wine. To my senses, aromatically, it speaks of wild violet petals, just as pronounced as can be. Like you take wild violets and crush them up and smell them. It releases the aroma. On the palate, very tangy. So there's the acidic ingredient. When we're describing wines, and especially when we're blending wines, we think a lot, most of us think a lot about cooking because we like to do the same thing. It's the same thought processes and exercises when you're in the kitchen. And one of the things that we do at the end of creating a sauce is adjust it for length of finish, and so that's frequently done by adding a little bit of lemon juice, a little bit of lemon zest, maybe a little bit of citric acid, and the same thing or a similar thing can be accomplished by adding a little bit of salt to seasoning it to taste. So that's where the Petite Verdot will come in as we make a blend, and see how that influences. So take these and dump them into your red dump bucket, which, as long as you don't spit it, you can drink it later. It'll probably be really good. Just don't drink somebody else's. Okay. Now take your Merlot and measure out. If you can read this, my eyes are terrible. If you can read it, there's the 30 mils right there. You've got one. So take 30 mils of Merlot and pour it into one glass. Then take 30 more mils and pour it in the other glass. And then we're going to do the same thing with the Cabernet Sauvignon. This is coming Julia Child, he said. So then there's the Cabernet. So again, 30 mils each. Now you have a 50-50 blend here. Now what we'll do is we'll take a pipette, and the technique here is, you just kind of cover it up with your finger, and then kind of get a feel in the bottle for how fast it comes out, and add just about, I would say, about 10 drops or something like that of the Petite Verdot. And I'll pass that to you so we can share a pipette into just one of the glasses. So Petite Verdot into one, and keep track of which it is. Okay, so now you've got them blended up, right? So smell the one without the Petite Verdot. And all those nice ripe berry flavors from both the Cab and the Merlot are in there. And then smell the one with the Petite Verdot. A little brighter, and now there is just an ever so slight hint of flower petal. And then we'll taste them. First, taste the one without Petite Verdot. And especially pay attention to how it feels on your palate after you swallow it. We are texturally focused creatures. We feel our food. We taste it and smell it, but we especially feel it. So feel that finish. You can feel the tannins that kind of grip the tongue. In the middle of the palate, the middle of the tongue. And then try it with the Petite Verdot and see if that feels any different. To my palate, it's a more even mouthfeel across the tongue, and there's a brightness, like it makes my mouth water, which generally makes you want to have another glass, which is good. It keeps us employed.